The movie begins with a bird's-eye view of the vast skyline of London, journeying toward the crime-infested part of the city where teenager Tom lives. While sitting in front of his computer, Tom can hear screams and loud noises coming from outside his window. The following morning, Tom is walking to school when his friend Danny pops up behind him and hands him a stolen phone he was getting for a cheap price. In class, Tom is unable to concentrate on what the teacher is saying because he is unable to help himself, but stares at Lucy, his longtime friend. After class, Tom receives a pep talk from Danny about talking to Lucy and telling her how he feels before seeing Lucy come toward them and walk away. As they walk, Lucy asks Tom to help her study and asks him to come over later that night. Going home and feeling restless for hours, Tom finally decides to head over to Lucy's house. When he finally gets there, Tom finds the main door of her house open and slowly walks inside. When he passes by the living room, he sees Lucy's brother passed out on the floor in front of the TV. Frightened, Tom starts to call out for Lucy and is shocked when he sees 4 masked men come out of her room, one of them recording the incident. Startled when one of them pulls out a gun, Tom tries to flee while calling the police, but the criminals aren't willing to take any chances, so they shoot him in the head. When Tom wakes up, he finds himself in the hospital after being admitted for almost 10 days. Looking around, he sees his grandmother, Nan. You seem relieved to see him finally wake up. Later, the doctor explained that fragments of his phone were embedded inside his head and that they would be monitoring him closely to see if there were any side effects. Traumatized by the whole experience, Tom lets Nan take him home, after making sure Lucy has also been sent home as well. On a taxi ride home, Tom experiences a strange phenomenon where he feels like he can hear the radio frequency in his head, but doesn't think much of it. A few days after returning home, Nun encourages Tom to go and see Lucy, telling him that she would be glad he went. Listening to her advice, Tom goes to Lucy's apartment, still experiencing weird phenomena with electronic devices. When he arrives at Lucy's flat, her mother lets him into her room, where he finds her sitting on her bed, smiling at him. Lucy tells Tom that she was glad that he wasn't dead, breaking the tension they were both feeling. Although Tom apologizes for not being able to save her, she explains that she didn't blame him for what happened. On his way back home, Tom suddenly begins to hear the calls people in his neighborhood are making. Overwhelmed and feeling a bit distorted, he rushes home and is surprised when he can see every detail of their TV frequency. Seeing his imbalanced state, Nun is scared and gets up to call the doctor, but Tom stops her, telling her that he only needed to get some rest. Inside his room, he begins to see the effects get stronger, and he is now able to see every code and history through every electronic device in his room. Then, when he looks outside, the city. Shocked, Tom passes out on his bedroom floor. The following morning, Tom wakes up remembering a small detail he had overlooked in Lucy's house when he went to visit her. He remembered seeing a projected image coming from their router, indicating an iPhone with a different owner, by the name of Eugene, a classmate, had been connected. When Monday arrives, Tom gets dressed to go to school despite Nun's objections. Going to Danny's house, the two embrace as Tom's friend expresses his happiness that he is still alive. On their way to school, Danny explains that he didn't hear anything about the incident and urges him to forget what happened and move on. In class, Tom uses his newfound skills to go through Eugene's phone and finds the video of Lucy's rape. Angry at what he saw, Tom concentrates on the boy's phone, frying it in his hands. That night, Tom goes to a party he had been invited to by Danny and begins to identify Lucy's assailants by remembering the video and picking out the characteristics that set them apart. Meanwhile, Lucy has become solitary and refuses to leave her room. Fueled by the drug and alcohol, Tom attempts to confront Eugene, but is stopped by Danny, who drags him outside and chastises him by mentioning the recent bullet wound in his head. Tom tells Danny that he knows that they have got him selling drugs, which Danny admits to, and he explains that one day he will be able to make it to the top, stopping all the side crimes the others were doing. After leaving the party, Tom goes over to Lucy's house and tries to cheer her up. While they're standing by her balcony and talking, they notice Eugene and his friends passing by, causing Lucy to tense up. After seeing her reaction, Tom decides that he is going to get revenge for the girl he was in love with. In the following days, Tom begins to track Eugene and his friends by tapping their phones and keeping track of all their activities. Going home, he begins to mess with all the electronic devices Eugene and his friends own, making him realize the potential his new power has given him. The following day, during a school assembly, Tom puts the recording he had made of Cass, one of Eugene's friends, masturbating on the projector of the auditorium, shaming him in front of everyone. Happy with what he has done, Tom goes over to Lucy's and tells her what happened. Curious, Lucy texts back the unknown number which had been communicating with her recently, unaware that it was Tom responding with his head, and asks if it was him that was messing with the gang. Doting the questions, Tom responds telepathically and asks her why she had been attacked. Lucy explains that the gang had tried to recruit his older brother, and when he refused, they decided to attack her as punishment. Sitting next to her, Tom watches her type away questions while he responds with his head, clearing any suspicions that it could be him. When Lucy asks what his name is, he tells her to call him iBoy. Tom decides to take Lucy out for something to eat, since she hasn't been out of the house since the incident, and promises that he will never abandon her in the future. On the way back to her house, Tom and Lucy are stopped by Eugene and his friends, who accuse them of being the ones playing the little tricks on them. Tom saves the situation by sending the gang members a misleading text, clearing the idea that it was them. The following night, Tom follows the gang members and watches as they break into a car and attempt to steal it. Using his ability, Tom locks them inside and begins to burn up the engine, causing them to be suffocated by smoke. Using the radio, Tom forces them to tell him who had ordered the attack on Lucy, and fearing for his life, Cass blurts out the name of their boss. Once he finds out who was behind the horrible attack, Tom goes over to the boss, Kutz's house, and hacks into their TV, showing them a video of him peeing in Kutz's car. Angry at the disrespect, Kutz and his crew hurry outside, giving Tom the distraction he needs to go into their house and explode every electronic device in the house with his mind. Tom then finds kilograms of drugs stashed in one of the false speakers and steals it, causing Kutz and his men to freak out. One night, while Tom and Lucy are watching a movie at her house, Lucy mentions the vigilante that has been trying to fight the gang. Although he had thought she would be impressed, she tells him that what the vigilante was doing seemed stupid, and that he would need to do a lot more if he ever wanted to clean up the place. Taking what she said to heart, Tom begins to devise a plan to get every gang member off the street. Using the cocaine he had stolen from Kutz, he places it in the rooms of Eugene and his friends, and then anonymously reports it to the police. When the storm of officers arrive at each house, they find high quantities just as they were told, and drag the juvenile kids to prison. Tensions start to escalate as money starts to disappear from Kutz's account following the robbery of the drugs, causing Kutz's boss, Elman, to threaten his life if he is unable to set things right. The following night, Kutz calls all of the young men who work for him and gives them an order to confiscate every electronic device they can find in the neighborhood. As he watches them go, Kutz makes his suspicions of Cass apparent, as he is the only one in his group who hasn't been arrested. The young gang members begin to break into each house and steal every item they can find that could be used to hack their accounts, causing mass uproar and anger toward the iBoy person Tom had created to post all the YouTube videos of what he had been doing to the gang. Tom chooses to lay low for a few days to give the gang the wrong impression that he has disappeared. One morning, while he is listening for communication, he hears a call between Kutz and one of his men about a delivery. That night, Tom tries to head out to his mission but is stopped by his grandmother, who demands to know where he has been sneaking off to. When he refuses to answer and walks out, Nan goes to see Danny and tells him that Tom has been acting suspiciously, begging him to look out for him. Tracking the boss's phone, Tom goes to a container yard where the exchange is supposedly going down. After attacking the guard on the lookout, Tom sets fire to the kilos of cocaine sitting in the crate, destroying all of the gang's merchandise. As soon as he lights the drug on flames, gang members who had been hiding and waiting for him to appear pop out of the corner and start beating him up. After sustaining heavy assault, Tom uses his powers to create static inside the heads of the men who were attacking him, causing them to collapse in pain. Using this chance, Tom escapes his near-death experience, while Kutz attempts to shoot at him but is unable to aim properly. While attempting to stumble home, Tom passes out on the street and spends the night. The following day, Tom gets into a fight with Lucy because he missed their appointment to go to the exam together. While he tries to follow her and apologize, the two notice the spectacle everyone is watching, which is Cass hanging from his house as an example. Disturbed by what he saw, Tom goes to a secluded rooftop to think about his actions. A little while later, Danny arrives and asks him about his recent disappearance, mentioning that he hasn't been going to exams. As a concerned friend, Danny gives him advice about not wasting his life before walking away. That night, Tom wakes up by sounds coming from the living room and goes to check it out. Tom is shocked to see Elman, Cuts, and his henchmen sitting in the living room. Elman mentions that he knows that he is special and threatens to hurt Lucy if he doesn't steal money for him, revealing that Danny was the one who gave him up. Using the phone they were using to record Lucy, Tom calls the police and leads them toward the kidnapped girl. Forced by Elman, Tom starts filling up his bank account. Suspecting that Tom might have done something when Eugene didn't answer the phone, Elman decides to go to the warehouse where they were holding Lucy. When they arrive, Tom uses his powers to explode the phones in the pockets of Lucy's kidnappers and his. Elman closely escapes the attack by throwing his phone away and running out. Tom follows him outside and is blindsided by a hit on the head. After a brief struggle, Tom unleashes all his power, causing Elman to be flung across the floor, then passes out from the exertion. When Tom wakes up, he finds himself in the hospital being looked after by his granny. The two go home, both happy that Tom has survived. A few days later, Tom is stopped by Danny, who offers him all the money he had taken from Elman for giving him up. Refusing to take the money, Tom walks away, leaving his friend with his guilt. Tom takes Lucy to a rooftop date where he prepares a picnic while they watch the city's skyline. As they stand watching, Lucy kisses Tom on the lips and holds him close, grateful for everything he has done for her. And with that, the movie ends. We hope you enjoyed our video. Watch the next recaps on the screen, and don't forget to subscribe for more amazing recaps. See you in the next one.